Hey guys, right, we're on to chapter 10. As soon as Mr. Tall had left the stage and we'd settled back into our seats, the second freak, Alexander Ribbs, came on. He was more of a comedy act than a scary one, which was just what we needed to calm us down after that terrifying start. I happened to look over my shoulder while he was on and noticed two of the blue-hooded people down on their knees cleaning blood from the floor. Alexander Ribbs was the skinniest man I'd ever seen. He looks like a skeleton. There seemed to be no flesh on him. He would have been frightening, except he had a wide, friendly smile. Funny music played and he danced around the stage. He was dressed in ballet clothes and looked so ridiculous that soon everyone was laughing. After a while he stopped dancing and began stretching. He said he was a contortionist, somebody with bones like rubber who can bend every which way. First he tilted his head back so far it looked like it had been cut off. He turned around so we could see his upside down face, then went on leaning backwards until his head was touching the floor. Then he put his hands around the back of his legs and pulled his head through until it was sticking up in front of him. It looked like it was growing out of his stomach. He got a huge round of clapping for that, after which he straightened up and began twisting his body around like a curly-whirly straw. He kept twisting and twisting, 5 times round, until his bones began to creak from the strain. He stood like that for a minute, then began to unwind really, really fast. Next he got 2 drumsticks with furry ends. He took the first drumstick and hit one of his bony ribs with it. He opened his mouth and a musical note sprang out. It sounded like the noise pianos make. Then he closed his mouth and struck a rib on the other side of his body. This time it was a louder, higher note. After a few more practice goes, he kept his mouth open and began playing songs. He played London Bridge is Falling Down, with songs by the Beatles and the theme tunes from a few well-known TV shows. The skinny man left the stage to shouts of "for more," but none of the freaks ever came back to do an encore. After Alexander Ribbs came Ramus Two Bellies, and he was as fat as Alexander was thin. He was enormous. The floorboards creaked as he walked out onto the stage. He walked close to the edge and kept pretending he was about to topple forward. I could see people in the front rows getting worried, and some jumped back out of the way when he got close. I don't blame them. He would have squashed them flat as a pancake if he fell. He stopped in the middle of the stage. "Hello," he said. He had a nice voice, low and squeaky. "My name is Ramus Two Bellies, and I really have 2 bellies. I was born with them, the same way certain animals are. The doctors were stunned and said I was a freak. That's why I joined this show, and I'm here tonight." The ladies, who had hypnotised the Wolfman, came out with 2 trolleys full of food. Cakes, chips, hamburgers, packets of sweets, the heads of cabbage. There was stuff there that I hadn't even seen before, never mind tasted. "Yum, yum," Ramus said. He pointed to a huge clock being lowered by ropes from above. It stopped about 3 meters above his head. "How long do you think it will take me to eat all this?" he asked, pointing to the food. There would be a prize for the person who guesses closest. "An hour," somebody yelled. 45 minutes, somebody else roared. 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 33 seconds, another person shouted. Soon everybody was calling out. I said an hour and 3 minutes. Steve said 29 minutes. The lowest guess was 17 minutes. When we were finished guessing, the clock started to tick and Ramus started to eat. He ate like the wind. His arms moved so fast you could hardly see them. His mouth didn't seem to close at all. He shoveled food in, swallowed and moved on. Everybody was amazed. I felt sick as I watched. Some people actually were sick. Finally Ramus scoffed the last bun and the clock above his head stopped ticking. 4 minutes and 56 seconds. He'd eaten all that food in less than 5 minutes. I could hardly believe it. It didn't seem possible, even for a man with 2 bellies. "That was nice," Rama said, "but I could have done with more dessert." While we clapped and laughed, the ladies in shiny suits rolled the trolleys away and brought on a new one, packed with glass statues and forks and spoons and bits of metal junk. "Before I begin," Rama said, "I must warn you not to try this at home. I can eat things which would choke and kill normal people. Do not try to copy me. If you do, you may die." He began eating. He started with a couple of nuts and bolts, which he sucked down without blinking. After a few handfuls he gave his big round belly a shake, and we could hear the noise of the metal inside. His belly heaved and he spat the nuts and bolts back out. If there had only been 1 or 2, I might have thought he was keeping them under his tongue or at the sides of his cheeks, but not even Rama's 2 belly's mouth was big enough to hold that load. Next, he ate the glass statues. He crunched the glass up into small pieces before swallowing it with a drink of water. Then he ate the spoons and forks. He twisted them up into circles with his hands, popped them into his mouth, and let them slide down. He said his teeth weren't strong enough to tear through metal. After that, he swallowed a long metal chain, then paused to catch his breath. His belly began rumbling and shaking. I didn't know what was going on until he gave a heave, and I saw the top of his chin come out of his mouth. I saw the top of the chain come out of his mouth. As the chain came out, I saw that the spoons and forks were wrapped around it. He had managed to poke the chain through the hoops inside his belly. It was unbelievable. When Rams left the stage, I thought nobody could top such an act. I was wrong.